So the whole chess world is buzzing right now for the World Rapid and Blitz Championships. Now this just kicked off in Kazakhstan, and that's the reason for the thumbnail, by the way. It's Magnus at the opening ceremony yesterday, Christmas Day. He was wearing the traditional gear, they took some photos. Now this is his round 2 game, but the person he's playing against I haven't revealed here, I'll do so at the end, and they were actually involved in starting the whole infamous rumour about how Hans may have cheated, if indeed he cheated, right, back in the Sinkfield Cup. So I'll reveal who that is at the end in case you don't know, and also give an update as well on how Hans Niemann's got on in his first couple of games, because that's the extra intrigue of this tournament. You've got Niemann, Carlsen, Nakamura all playing, all involved in an active lawsuit right now that Hans Niemann's brought. And if you don't know anything more about that, check out my other videos and let me know your thoughts down below on whether Carlsen will play Niemann if they get paired. Fascinating rounds to come. Anyway, let's check this one out. Magnus with white kicks off with b3, a move that reminds me of Hikaru a lot now, by the way. He loves this one. d5 now on the board, and we had bishop b2 and now bishop g4. So a kind of probing move, bit annoying. Do you want to go knight f3? Maybe black shatters the pawns. You can't go e3 now. Well, Magnus, he goes f3. So never play f3 or f6, Ben Feingold says. You weaken this king down here. Ugly looking move. But it does kick back the bishop, and then we see this follow-up from Magnus. So it's actually a gambit here if black accepts. Now, it wasn't accepted, but if taken, the best move is knight c3, and if a second pawn gets taken, you really activate the queen, big initiative, castle's queenside coming, and so best for black here is knight f6, and apparently g4 is best for white, you know, doing some clicking with the computer. Crazy position, but straight out of book from the opening, exactly what Magnus is looking for. So the bishop drops off, and now he goes h4, trying to trap that bishop. So h5 from black, and now we see the pawn actually captured. You didn't have to do that. The computer actually wants queen e2 there, offering the pawn again. But okay, we see captures, queen takes, and knight c3. Very logical, drives the queen with tempo. Now queen e2, preparing to castle queenside. And so black goes knight c6, and after castle's queenside, knight d4, kicking the queen. Then we see black doing the exact same thing. So we're not going to get an opposite sides attacking situation. You know, black wants to try and keep the lid on things. This is the world champion after all. And now knight e4 from Magnus. Great move. So you open up this bishop here, you attack the queen, and if black takes like this, you're not too concerned as white. You've picked up the bishop pair, and you've also gained a square to now develop your knight to. White's got a small edge. So queen b6 played, best move, and now we see the knight developing. Black chops here with check, bishop recaptures, e6 now played to develop this one, all very logical stuff. King b1 from Magnus, and in the spirit of Ben Feingold, we've got to quote him now, always play king b1 as he says, you know, tuck that king away. Black often does the same soon. And now knight e7 develops, looking to come here and then into this d4 square once again. That's why it doesn't come to f6. Also, we can see the pressure, you know, you could chop and then take with the bishop twice. And now this is really interesting from Magnus. He gets really aggressive here with his queenside pawns, plays pawn to a4. Not the computer's favourite move. They want to swap off queens here, but it's a really nice attacking idea how he starts using the kingside pawns to get at the black king in just a moment. So knight c6 now played, looking at this juicy square. Now we see queen b5 offering the trade. That one was now met by knight d4, so it forks both of these. Magnus chops here, the pawns get doubled, and now the bishop finds a home on c4. Nice position for Magnus, very small edge, but not too much in it. Black remains very solid. The bishop develops, connects the rooks, and now Magnus just plays a nudgy move here, moves this rook to the e-file. You can definitely say it's improved here than where it was there, staring at its own pawn. And in a moment, we'll see Magnus now defend that pawn from this open line. So rook d7 prepares to double. Now that bishop came to c3. the rook's doubled, and the king comes to b2. Not only a small improvement of the king, but you're opening the file now. Possibly Magnus is going to attack like this. So c6 played, solid looking move. Now we get pawn b4, and this is where Magnus now is trying to turn up the heat on the queen side, open some lines for those bishops. King c7, decent move, also allows black to do a similar idea and challenge the a-file. Rook a1 now played, and here we see e5 bolstering the knight, plus we'll see f6 coming and some ideas of potentially exchanging this light squared bishop, which is a bit more powerful than this one as things stand. d3 from Magnus, solid move, pawn to f6, and now b5 comes, looking to rip open lines, and Magnus did that one and not a5, by the way, because he didn't want black to start shutting down the lines there. The computer doesn't mind this way of playing. You've still got space as white. a6 could come, but this one's a bit more human in a way. Then a5 to come soon. Bishop f8 now played, so tucks back, opens up ideas of exchanging these ones, and that's why Magnus goes rook to f1, it would seem, because now if black does this, you can exchange, rook recaptures, and pawn to f4, and you haven't got time for this kind of move, driving the knight, or then it comes to g5, so decent position for white. Bishop f7 not best. Instead, black should look to do something like rook a8, just try and challenge the a-file, make this move less appealing, but knight f5 was played. Now it's a really nice looking idea, coming into e3, forking these two, but Magnus ignores it and goes a5, and this is a big challenge now for black. Because if you go knight e3, which is actually the computer's best move, well then you can take here with check. Now this is the tricky follow-up. You actually have to go king b8 here, not stagger out and capture the pawn. And the idea is that after the rook moves, you chop the bishop, pawn recaptures, then you take here. And if white tries to grab a second pawn, which isn't the best move, but then black can get some squares for the rooks. The bishop could be coming back to e8 at the right moment to munch on this one. But white does have ideas of doubling on the a-file, trying to checkmate the king. From a human perspective, this is why allowing the pawn to b6, king on b8, just doesn't look natural. But then the computer finds this kind of ninja move, rook d1, interception, etc., and says that black's okay. But really difficult to see that whole idea that you can still go knight e3, allow the takes with check, then king b8, weird concept. So instead we had captures here. Bishop recaptures, hitting the rook. Then it comes to d5, and the idea after captures with check, king takes, is that there's no time for this bishop a5 check piece winning the exchange, because then the king can take here, and okay, if you capture here, black's actually doing better, so white's best would be this c4 check. But then the king can move, takes, and you could get some kind of line like this. This is probably what black calculated. White's a bit better, but okay, black's still in the game. Compensation for the exchange, the knight could come to d4, that kind of thing. Now, it's all very tactical, but what we saw instead was Magnus goes bishop to c4. He doesn't play the immediate bishop a5 check. And the challenge now for black is that bishop a5 check is coming, winning an exchange, and you can't keep your rook on this rank to actually cover that square. So that's why we see now black just goes for counterplay. The best way to do it was actually taking this pawn, but you're still worse. But what we saw instead was knight to e3. Now we had a captures here, but you don't actually have time to capture this rook down here. Otherwise, once again, we get the bishop a5 check stuff. And this king's actually getting really badly hunted. I mean, here's a sample variation where it's actually checkmate now along the a-file using those bishops, which is really nice, plus the pawn. So you've got big problems. You literally can't allow bishop a5 check. So we saw instead here, the rook captured on d5 stops the bishop a5 check, comes away from the skewer, but now Magnus has got time to save this rook and he's a clean exchange up. So the check came here, king stepped, rook captured, this one comes with check, king moved, and now g3 just saves that pawn from the knight's attack. It dropped back to d5, Magnus tucks back with the bishop, also freeing the way for the pawn. Bishop f7 played, the pawn came to c4, The knight backpedaled here, and after bishop a5, here we actually saw a resignation. Now white's an exchange up, but also just crushing it. So say you played a move like bishop e7, just a small improvement. Well, now there's this rook b6 check. King goes, you win this one, whole thing's horrible. So the best move's knight, where are we? Here. Knight a8 covering this square, but the whole thing's miserable. White can just incrementally improve the position. So the resignation played, but who was Magnus Carlsen playing? Well, here's the reveal. So the one and only Erik Hansen, one of the chess bras. Now, why was he involved in the chess cheating stuff? Well, on one of his streams, soon after the whole scandal was breaking, he said as a kind of throwaway joke, oh, maybe he used an anal bead. That's how he was cheating, getting sent signals. And that's where the whole thing went nuts. The papers picked up on it. Rumours started swirling. Elon Musk was tweeting this stuff. Whole thing went crazy. Now, how is Hans Niemann actually doing so far in this tournament? Well, out of his first 2 games, he's won one, the second one, drawn the first one. He was lucky to draw the first one. He was a lot worse. So he's doing okay. He's in touching distance. Let's see if he can keep up with Magnus. Hopefully they get paired. I hope you enjoyed this one, and if you want to learn more about this whole chess cheating thing, then check out the playlist on screen. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you soon.